Studio 19.
In this video, I'm going to give my top 10 reasons why I think you should still use a Canon 80D in 2020. As a side note, I'm using the Canon 80D to shoot my first independent feature film called Night Shadow. But enough with all that. Let's get into this video, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Number 1, low light. The Canon 80D is a low light beast. Of course, it's nowhere near the Sony line of cameras, but it allows you to capture great images that aren't noisy at high ISOs. This is especially true if you're lighting properly and exposing for the camera. Look at this night exterior footage I captured and see for yourself. Number 2, small file sizes. Since the Canon 80D captures video at 1920 by 1080 Full HD, your file sizes are going to be smaller in comparison to cameras that are capturing footage at 4K and higher resolutions. The fact that it uses 1920 by 1080 Full HD, you won't need a super powerful computer and expensive file storage hardware. This also is great so you don't kill your computer while editing and more. A couple of 32 and/or 64 gigabyte SD cards will allow you to shoot for hours. Normally I keep my footage on the SD cards as a backup to my 2 external hard drives since the file sizes are pretty small. Number 3, the camera is inconspicuous. I'm able to carry this camera with me and shoot scenes without being too obvious. Luckily, we don't need a permit to shoot films in my county if it's public property, but still, when you're doing things the guerrilla way, it never helps to draw attention to yourself. Number 4, full HD slow motion. I come from using the Canon T5i, T3i, and 7D. So being able to capture slow motion at 1080p and not 720p is a gift from God. This is definitely important when you're shooting a project of any sort because your slow motion scenes won't have 720p footage that doesn't match with the rest of the full HD project. Number 5, great battery life. This camera has great battery life just like most if not all the cameras in the Canon family. With one battery fully charged, you'll get around 2 hours give or take. Also, the batteries are very cheap. You can go on Amazon and buy 2 batteries that come with the dual charger for under $30. I bought one of these dual charger and battery sets and it was well worth it. Now this leads me into my next topic. Number 6, cheap camera accessories. Whether you're looking for lenses, sliders, cranes, gimbals, and more, the Canon 80D won't leave you stuck because it can't fit on certain equipment due to weight and form factor issues. This camera is friendly towards your pockets because you won't have to cough up lots of money to get better toys for your cinematic and videography needs. Number 7, great autofocus. I know this has been talked about a lot when it comes to this camera, but it must be mentioned. This camera not only has great autofocus for rack focusing abilities, but it can also be used in conjunction with the focus puller. If you have a smartphone and you utilize the NFC Wi-Fi app, you'll be able to have someone tap to focus while you use a crane, gimbal, and more. This will ensure that you can always have great cinematography. Number 8, great color science. Right off the bat, this camera looks great and the color science is wonderful. I love how Canon's color science is very cinematic without needing to color grade too much, if at all. With Canon's color science, you could probably get away with just adding a cinematic contrast curve to your footage so it resembles the look of a higher budget film without color grading with color wheels and more. Number 9, how this camera interprets light. This camera interprets light very well. You can almost guarantee when you light a scene, it will interpret your lighting scheme in a very cinematic way when shot at 23.98 frames per second. I'm always amazed at how cinematic the light is interpreted when it falls upon subjects with this camera. The Canon 80D gives your footage a unique cinematic look that will help you tell your stories and give a great look to your video projects. Many DSLRs have trouble giving you a cinematic look through light interpretation, but this camera isn't one of them. To me, the Canon 80D has the ability to create magical looking footage for films and other video projects. If you love lighting and you're a cinematographer, having this camera is definitely a necessity. Number 10, it's a great all-around camera. There are many cameras on the market today, and I feel like most of them don't measure up due to great problems that they have. For instance, there are cameras that have horrible low light. There are cameras that have horrible battery life, fixed pattern noise issues, codec compatibility issues, frame dropping issues, jello effect issues, form factor issues, overheating issues, and more. The last thing you want to do is spend your hard-earned money on a camera that is going to need resourceful and creative ideas to work around these unfortunate problems. Well, that's it for this video. I hope I convinced you to use the Canon 80D because it is a reliable and magnificent camera that may be forgotten in the near future.
Studio 19.